One of the most important people in the history of the Walt Disney Company is Michael Eisner. He was largely responsible for transforming Disney into the corporation it is today, and while not all of his decisions were winners, his impact is still felt as the Mouse House continues to find new ways to entertain audiences. Before joining Disney, he spent much of his career at the major television networks, most notably at ABC. From 1976 to 1984, Eisner was president of Paramount Pictures, where he greenlit successful movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark, Beverly Hills Cop, Grease, Saturday Night Fever, Airplane, Terms of Endearment, and the first films in the Star Trek franchise. Around this time, Disney was in trouble as it was dealing with underperforming movies and a potential takeover. Roy Disney and other shareholders voted to replace Ron Miller, and Eisner and Frank Wells were hired to run the company in 1984. Eisner then brought over Jeffrey Katzenberg from Paramount and put him in charge of the movie studio. Miller had already got the ball rolling on expanding Disney's film operations by creating Touchstone Pictures for non-family movies. The first release, Splash, was very successful, and that certainly helped Disney attract the attention of more talent to make movies for them. Several of the biggest hits produced by the studio during the 80s were Touchstone films. Due to his experience in television, Eisner felt it necessary to increase Disney's output in that area. One of the first shows produced by Disney under Eisner's watch was The Golden Girls, which was a big ratings hit for NBC. He also decided Disney should start making animated television shows, something Walt had little interest in doing. Eisner recognized the quality people associated with Disney animation, and so spent a lot of money making sure the animation of these shows rose above what the likes of Hanna-Barbera and Filmation were putting out at the time. Others thought Eisner was crazy for spending so much on animated television series, but his approach ultimately proved correct. He actually came up with the initial concept for the Wuzzles, and he also suggested to the team of the newly created Disney Television Animation that they should come up with a series based on the popular Gummy Bears candies. Even though the Wuzzles only ran for 13 episodes, Adventures of the Gummy Bears was a big success and proved Disney as a major competitor in this field. Michael Eisner knew that in order to move Disney into the future, they needed to try new things. He recognized the accomplishments of his predecessor, Ron Miller, who had already moved away from the previous corporate mindset of doing what Walt would wanted. And Eisner similarly felt they had to catch up to the modern audience, without worrying too much about retaining the legacy of a man who, while certainly someone to admire for his ambition, had also been dead for almost 20 years. In addition to television, Eisner also saw the value of home video. Some executives at Disney were unenthusiastic about the notion of releasing the animated classics on home video, fearing they would take revenue away from the re-releases, although they had already previously put out Alice in Wonderland and Dumbo on video. Robin Hood was the first release under the Walt Disney Classics line, followed shortly by Pinocchio. These videos were incredibly successful, although the company made sure to only make them available for a limited time via the Disney Vault policy, thus making it more of an event whenever an animated classic appeared on shelves. Eisner also took great interest in the theme park business and sought to expand their footprint. When he saw the Imagineers planning a movie-themed pavilion for Epcot, he suggested that Disney should instead make an entire theme park dedicated to the movies. He made a deal with MGM to use their name, and thus Disney MGM Studios opened to the public in 1989. Having already had a good working relationship with George Lucas when he approved the production of the Indiana Jones movies at Paramount, Eisner made a deal with him to help make some attractions for the theme parks. One was Captain EO, and another was Star Tours, based on those popular sci-fi adventures Lucas created. Lucas also brought the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular show to Disney MGM Studios, which was followed by an Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland. Eisner also felt the Muppets would be a good fit for Disney and sought Jim Henson to create some attractions for the parks and to potentially buy his company. There were even plans for an entire land dedicated to the Muppets at Disney MGM Studios, and a television special aired in 1990 featuring the Muppets at Walt Disney World. Henson also directed the Muppet Vision 3D attraction. Sadly, Henson died before any more deals could be finalized. Eisner did continue to pursue his family about buying the Jim Henson Company and the Muppets, and they quickly grew annoyed at Disney's behavior. Back to television, Michael Eisner was also instrumental in returning Disney's popular anthology show to network television after a couple of years on the Disney Channel. The Disney Sunday Movie started airing on ABC in 1986, but hopping to other networks under new names over the years. Eisner decided he should host the show, and through his introductions of whichever movie was airing that Sunday night, he became well known to the families who tuned in. As a child, I certainly did not know who was in charge of Warner Brothers or Paramount, but I absolutely knew that Michael Eisner was the person running Disney, thanks to his frequent television appearances on The Wonderful World of Disney. Under Eisner's leadership, and with Katzenberg running Walt Disney Studios, the feature animation unit also found newfound popularity, with hits like The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. One of Eisner's most important decisions was deciding to release a new animated film every year or so, rather than the 4 years it was previously taking the animators to complete a film. He made sure there were multiple productions running at once, and to invest in new technologies that will make them look even better and more exciting for audiences. One was a software named CAPS, which replaced the old ink and paint process of coloring animation cells. This was developed by a small computer animation studio, Pixar. A deal was then made with Pixar to produce computer animated features for Disney, which began with the release of Toy Story in 1995. The ecstatic response to Beauty and the Beast, especially the songs by Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, led Eisner to believe there was potential in turning it into a Broadway musical. The stage adaptation premiered in 1994 and was a huge success with audiences, leading to Disney turning more of their animated films into stage shows, with The Lion King becoming one of the longest-running musicals in Broadway history, still playing in New York to this day. One of the most important acquisitions made by Eisner was when Disney bought the ABC television network in 1996. It was fitting that ABC would wind up under Disney, not only because of Eisner's prior association with the channel, but also because ABC was one of the companies that helped fund Disneyland back in the 50s. Buying the Alphabet Network also resulted in the sports channel, ESPN, joining the Disney family, and most notably, it was what brought ABC's then president, Bob Iger, to the mouse. Not all of Eisner's decisions proved to be good ones, though. One of his earliest failings was a rift with Steven Spielberg over the Roger Rabbit shorts. After the first short was attached to the successful Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Spielberg wanted the second one to appear in front of Arachnophobia, a film he was executive producer on. However, Eisner insisted it should be attached to Dick Tracy, much to Spielberg's annoyance. This caused a conflict between the two, and while Spielberg allowed one more short to go into production, he stopped working with Disney after that. Eisner and Jeffrey Katzenberg also started growing apart, with Katzenberg wanting more control of Disney. After Frank Wells tragically died in a helicopter crash in 1994, Eisner took over his position as president. Disappointment with this decision and other issues with Disney led Katzenberg to resign and partner with Spielberg and David Geffen to found DreamWorks Pictures. He would have left Disney eventually, but it is interesting to wonder how different the future of animation would have been had he stuck around a little longer. Some of Eisner's ideas on how to expand the theme park business led to quite a few embarrassments. First, there was the announcement and opening of Disneyland Paris. The reveal that Disney was going to build a theme park in Paris led to derision from French critics, who hated the idea of an American institution invading the country. When Disneyland Paris opened in 1992, the number of visitors were much less than anticipated, and the park was perceived as a failure, with the company losing a lot of money. Thankfully, it started to finally see a profit in 1995, but those first few years of operation were tough. Eisner also became enthusiastic about building a park centered on American history, to be named Disney's America. The plan was to open it in the state of Virginia, but they faced opposition from those who felt Disney would create a distorted version of the country's history, along with concerns that would take business away from local historical sites that did not have Disney's branding. Eventually, Disney backed out of the venture, and the park was never built. Then there was California Adventure. Eisner decided to create a new park right next to Disneyland that would celebrate California by featuring recreations of the state's landmarks. That's right, instead of tourists and local residents visiting these actual parts of California history, he thought they would much rather go to smaller versions of those things. When it opened in 2001, it did not reach the expected numbers and was criticized for being derivative and featuring attractions you can see at any boardwalk and carnival, when people tend to go to a Disney park for experiences only they can offer. Even the Imagineers themselves did not have a high opinion of the place. There were also as much publicized contract disputes with Pixar, which began with Toy Story 2. Eisner did not think the sequel should be counted as part of their deal, which Steve Jobs completely disagreed with, as the studio worked just as hard on Toy Story 2 as it did on Toy Story and A Bug's Life. Even as Pixar movies consistently scored big at the box office, the relationship continued to sour. At one point, it looked very likely that Pixar would split off from Disney. Yes, there's an alternate reality where Cars is the last Pixar film to be released by Disney, with Ratatouille and WALL-E potentially being distributed by Warner Brothers or Sony. Since Disney retained the rights to the characters, Eisner even set up a studio named Circle 7 Animation, specifically to create sequels to the Pixar movies. Scripts for Toy Story 3 and Monsters, Inc. 2 even got quite far into development. Eisner was also having several disagreements with Harvey Weinstein about the films being released under Miramax, although most of these were actually Weinstein's fault. Eisner refused to release Fahrenheit 9/11 for political reasons, with that movie then becoming a big hit for Lionsgate instead. Eisner also turned down Miramax's request to make Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings due to the likely expensive budget, so Jackson had to take it elsewhere. This actually worked out for the best, as Weinstein only wanted to make 2 films, and even tried to convince Jackson to condense the entire story into 1 movie. Disney also grew annoyed at Weinstein allowing Gangs of New York to go over budget. In 2001, Disney bought the Fox Family Channel, renaming it to ABC Family. A lot of people thought this was a mistake, and the newly named network did not perform well in its first couple of years, as it aired almost entirely reruns and little else that could draw in viewers. While Disney did have its fair share of box office hits near the end of Eisner's tenure, the 2 most successful ones, Finding Nemo and Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl, were films he did not have a lot of faith in. He even came very close to shutting down Pirates of the Caribbean at a number of points, but Jerry Bruckheimer convinced him to keep the project alive. Meanwhile, Walt Disney Animation was having a hit-or-miss period during the early 2000s. Eisner did finally acquire the Muppets for Disney in 2004, so that was a win for him at least. However, he did not have much time to celebrate, as Roy Disney became disappointed in how Eisner was running the company, and started the Save Disney campaign to get him voted out, ironically a reversal of what brought him to Disney in the first place. Several shareholders voted for him to step down, and in 2005, Eisner left his position at Disney a year before his contract was supposed to end. Bob Iger was put in his place, and immediately got to work to fix many of the decisions Eisner had been criticized for. He mended Disney's relationship with Pixar and then acquired the studio for $7.4 billion. Some people at the studio actually thought Iger overpaid, but Disney has absolutely earned that money back and then some. He also got to work on turning around California Adventure, altering and removing many of the elements people found derivative. The Imagineers also utilized a lot more of the familiar Disney and Pixar characters in other acquisitions. Additions like Cars Land and the recently opened Avengers Campus have definitely done a lot to attract more people to the park. I have not agreed with every decision Bob Iger has made, but he does deserve some credit for the company's growth in the several years he served in the CEO position. So what happened to Michael Eisner after leaving Disney? He's certainly been active. For 3 years, he had a talk show on CNBC titled Conversations with Michael Eisner. He also founded the Tenancy Company, which specializes in investing and acquiring various entertainment ventures. One of them was Topps, the trading card company behind the Garbage Pail Kids, and for a long time, Eisner tried to get a new animated series or movie off the ground featuring those disgusting characters, but nothing came out of it, and eventually sold Topps earlier this year. Tenancy has produced quite a few successful animated shows, like Glen Martin DDS and Toucan Birdie. Tenancy's biggest hit is BoJack Horseman, and Eisner did not just throw money at the show. It's been said that he did sit in on story meetings and gave suggestions on occasion, and has even revealed he's as proud of BoJack as he is of The Lion King. While Michael Eisner's time running Disney did have its occasional controversies and ideas that did not win over the public, it cannot be denied the pivotal role he played in helping turn around Disney during one of the lowest points in the company's history. When he was hired in 1984, he understood exactly what needed to be done, and the results of some of his decision-making and acquisitions certainly still affect Disney today. See you next time.